Thanks for tuning in and welcome to Marketing Bites, Restaurant Growth Unwrapped. I'm your host, Brian Siemienas, the Vice President of Restaurant Solutions for Nift. Today, I welcome our guest, Jeff Perera, co-founder at Jeff's Bagel Run. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, how you doing, Brian? Great to see you.
Very good. Looking forward to today's episode.
Me too.
You have probably one of the most incredible stories with how Jeff's Bagel Run started. Your entire background for over 20 years was working for retail companies, including Target, Apple, Adidas, and North Face, before working for a senior living company. Unfortunately, can you explain what happened after you lost your job and how one of my favorite local bagel places opened a mile from my house in Ocoee, Florida, which is a suburb of Orlando for those not familiar?
Yeah, absolutely. So 2019, I had transitioned out of retail. I was working in senior living, so regional vice president of sales and operations for communities in Central and North Florida. And I came in as part of a restructuring. The organization was looking for non-traditional leaders to help infuse some different ideas into their business. And they added a bunch of positions. And after about an 18-month run, they said, this isn't working. And they eliminated a bunch of positions. So I found myself without a job in August of 2019. And my wife, Danielle, was headed back to work. She was ready. She'd been talking to her former company, and she's like, why don't you just stay home? Take a break, be a stay-at-home dad, take care of the kids, and, I'll go out and make sure everything else is taken care of. And so that happened. And in that period of time, we were looking for a great bagel because we were driving like 45 minutes an hour out of the part of town that we live here in Central Florida to the other side of town to get bagels. And it was like, this is crazy. She said, you should just learn to make me a bagel. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. So I did, happy wife, happy life. And it was fun. Turns out I was really bad at it in the beginning, but, there was a lot of bad bagels, but I learned how to roll dough. I learned how to make bread. It was a lot of fun. It was a great experience and a lot of obsession. And 3-4 months later, I had the recipe that you eat today in all of our shops. And it was a winner. So.
Okay. So as far as the name, obviously your name's Jeff. So Jeff's Bagel. How'd the run come about? Why?
Yeah. So Jeff's
why not
Bagel,
just...
100%. So Jeff's Bagel Run was, the inspiration came from the fact that we would go on bagel runs. We would take these like Saturday morning runs to get a bagel. Like kind of, if you think back in college, you'd have like a beer run. We were doing bagel runs, we've got a family and we just wanted to stock up. And so when I started selling the bagels online from home, I would do deliveries. So I was doing the run for other people. I would drop them off in the neighborhood or take them to their place of business, whatever it looked like. And it turned into something that as we went into 2020, COVID set in, the breadth of people that understood who our business was expanded, and we had a lot more opportunity to make those runs to people. And it was pretty exciting. I mean, it was a terrible time, but an exciting time for the business to be starting. So.
Okay. And making that first transition, there's a lot of people, whether it's brew their own beers, do things in their house. How did you go from this seems to be working to let's take savings or whatever we need to do to put that first brick and mortar location? How did you come about and how did that, was it a success from the very beginning? Because I'll be honest, I'm not sure if it took me a while to see the lines as I drove by there every morning as you guys were open.
Yeah, we, this sounds so, I don't think pretentious, maybe that's not the right word. It just feels bad to say it was a success from the beginning, but it was a success from the beginning. We had built for about 18 months at home. We were an online business. We, during that period of time where the world was locked down during the pandemic, at the start of the pandemic, we had to build out a full website to make sure people could order online. At that point in time, we were like literally just taking direct messages from people like, oh, I'll take 6 bagels, I'll take 12 bagels, and put them in a spreadsheet, and we would figure out how to get them to the people who wanted them. As soon as the pandemic set in, we had hundreds and hundreds of requests. I mean, 300 DMs in like your Instagram or your Facebook Messenger app was like, it was nonsense. And so we transitioned to an online store. The online store, we would drop bagels like a concert ticket or like a new shoe at 7 p.m. on Sunday nights. and the site would get 1,200, 1,400 unique hits, and it would be constantly being refreshed right before we'd unlock the site at 7 p.m. to sell bagels, and we'd sell out in 30, 40 seconds. It was a limited quantity. You're making like 40 dozen a
Mhm.
day from home, a couple days a week. So it was not a lot, but there was a demand there. We started doing markets when the world started opening back up, and the markets had lines. People would wait an hour before the market would open just to be in line to get 6 bagels because we would only sell 6 to people because we couldn't produce enough at home. My house was a complete nightmare. It was like 5 refrigerators. I had extension cords running from every room because we were popping breakers, and so we had to plug them in different circuits. I mean, it was a nightmare.
Right.
And Danielle and I made the decision that it's like probably time for me to find a space to do the thing that I'm doing. We were going to keep the business model exactly the same. Find a storefront, order online, people could pick up and go about their day. Turns out that like retail, where Danielle had gone back to work post pandemic, was a very difficult environment. There was a lot of customers, not a lot of employees, and the expectations were equally as high as they had always been. And she was, helping me on this journey, building a store and doing all this stuff. And she's like, this is fun. I was like, well, come on, let's go. Come do it with me. And she's like, how? What do we do? Where's my 401k come from? Where's my insurance come from? And we're like, we'll figure it out. But I convinced her, I guess, or at least I felt convicted enough in what we were doing that it would be a great success. And she coming and being a part of this is why we are as successful, I think, as we are today, because she's the operational mind. She's the brains behind all of this happening. I'm much more of the vision, products, ideas, etc. type of person. So
Yeah, and as far as I can do it, so you want to be humble, but I would say I've been in Orlando since '96. So, as far as from originally from Chicago, so know what good bagels, not to the point of New Yorkers, but a lot of the New York places went to Chicago in certain parts.
for
But
sure.
I can tell you that nothing wrong with the chains. I've worked for chains from Hard Rock to Darden my whole career. There was nothing in this area like you guys do.
Yeah.
I mean, Brugger's, I'll date them because they're barely
Yeah.
around. Einstein, and then Panera literally were the only options.
Yeah.
At least maybe there's Buried on the east end of town, but you guys definitely are unique in what you do, and I think the success you're seeing, is a tribute to the great job of the product and those early failed bagels that I'm sure were awful to
We're
eat,
so
but
bad. So
so
bad.
so let's get to the bagels.
Yeah.
And
Let's do it.
not only do you have your traditional, but you have some of the most unique flavors. With even today's, as we're recording this, the bagel of the day being the Buffalo Ranch Chicken. So that's just one of many that are unique. Can you explain what's your process for making bagels? And most
Yeah.
importantly, how do you come up with the different varieties and innovation of these flavors you wouldn't expect?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we make a traditional New York style bagel, which is boiled in a malt syrup bath and then baked. So a lot of um, a lot of the traditional kind of, or the maybe phrase, the current state of the environment in bagels at scale is par baked, frozen, like thaw and serve or thaw and steam to reheat baked style bagels. So what you're getting at Einstein's, what you see at like H&H Bagel as they expand, it's all a frozen product, and they do that to try to keep it consistent, which I understand. It just changes the science of the way the baked goods work. So our bagels are scratch made every day in store. We mix our own dough with fresh ingredients and then refrigerate them overnight. So they go through a cold fermentation process, somewhere between 14 and 18 hours. And then they're boiled and baked the next day. That fermentation process really allows for flavor development, allows for like this really slow rise. So the bagels go from like being really skinny to like puffing up like that. And then you put them in the oven. And then when they hit the oven, they get that oven pop. So it's an interesting bakery process because most baked goods aren't boiled, and that boiling is like the key step. So there's, um, I can go down a rabbit hole of bagel science if we want to, but I think that's probably the what makes our bagels unique and different from what you're getting in a lot of other chain style places because we have 12 locations now. We're growing. We go into a new market and people see us and they're like, "Oh, you're just a chain from Florida." Yes, but we're not operating the same way a lot of these other chain places go because the bagel community is very tight knit. There's bagel culture that exists in places like Chicago and New York, and it doesn't live the same way in every market that it does in those parts of the world. Montreal, believe it or not, has an incredible bagel culture. They make their bagels a slightly different way with like a honey boil, so they're sweeter. But that's where the base bagels and like the idea comes from, the flavor profiles and the things that we create are really just me trying to have fun. I think I always think about, and I don't know if you've ever had the jelly bellies that taste like things they're not supposed to taste like. Like you get like a popcorn jelly belly or
Hmm.
I don't know, whatever it
Yeah.
might be. It has this like incredible texture and consistency of a jelly bean, but it tastes like popcorn. It tastes just like buttered popcorn in your mouth, and but you have none of the crunch. You have none of that textural component that popcorn does, but you get the flavor. So whenever we introduce a bagel, the idea is like, how do I get a bagel to taste like a bagel, but have the flavor profile of something else? So buffalo chicken ranch is great. It's like an amazing flavor profile. It's buffalo chicken on top of a jalapeno bagel with cheddar cheese. And so the cheese makes it like gooey and melty. The buffalo is spicy. The jalapeno is spicy. You bite it and it's got a little bit of crunch to it. And you could be eating a buffalo chicken wing. If you close your eyes and you're like, wow, this could be like a buffalo chicken wing because it's got all those flavors, but it is uniquely bagel. It's got a crisp exterior, soft, fluffy inside. It has all the things that make it a bagel, but it tastes like something different.
Okay. And then on the creative flair, the bagels aren't enough. You just as good as the bagels are your, spreads with many of the traditional flavors, the veggie, the chives, all
Yeah.
those. But then you also have a number of them that as I walk in there, it looks like they're ice cream sounding flavors like banana pudding, cake batter, cannoli, cookies and cream. How did these unique flavors come around? And what are some that you've tried that just, ooh, okay, sounded good, but got to go back to the drawing board, like those early bagels.
For sure. So the flavors come, you said ice cream, and this is exactly where I take it. Like, if it can be ice cream, it can be cream cheese. Like, there's no reason why we can't figure out how to make that work. Um, it's a lot of similar principles and how you make it. So we tried to, the demand for sweet cream cheese is very high. People love unique flavors and they want something with a little bit of sweetness to it because the traditional ones are so like savory, and a lot of the bagels are savory. There's not a lot of sweet bagels out there. So people want to offset with that sweet cream cheese. We learned a ton about what people are interested in by visiting other bagel shops. We took a pilgrimage. We went up to New York City. We visited like 15 shops in 2 days. We ate way more bagels and cream cheese than one person should ever eat in a 2 day period of time. But the takeaway for us was that cream cheese is like the differentiator. Like the bagels in New York are good. They're getting too big. They're getting a little like overblown, and the sandwiches and the situations they're doing up there are absolutely wild. They're more like delis than they are bagel shops anymore. But the cream cheese selection is out of control. Like you might go into a shop and it's got 20 flavors, and I mean, we have like 15 flavors now, so it's like 20 is not too far off. But we we stole a lot of great ideas. One, and then I always thought about like the ice cream flavors I would see or something that sounded good to me. Like we have cake batter, and cake batter is probably one of our most popular sweet bagel or sweet cream cheeses that people put on either a sweet or a savory bagel. It tastes just like you put your finger in a bowl of cake batter and like licked it. I mean, it's exactly the same. It's wild and it's fun. People are intrigued by it. They like it. Some people are like, oh, it's too sweet, but it's a good time.
You've been doing a real fun March Madness program called Bagel Madness, where you've got a bracket with different bagels competing against each other. Your final four has been finalized. You've got the Abbey versus Blueberry Cinnamon Sugar and Pepper Jack Everything versus Tomato Grilled Cheese. How did this program come about, the idea? And if you were placing a bet in Vegas, are your who you thought would be the winner still in contention, or did the consumers, prove you wrong?
So the idea came from the obviously March Madness. This time of year, it's so much fun. Last year, I had done something kind of a little more rudimentary and just like was like, "Hey, who are your bagel flavors?" And I put on our social medias like little polls that people could say, "I picked this one," or "I picked that one," and that was fun. And when I was talking to our marketing team as we were planning for what 2025 was going to look like, I said, could we do a real March Madness? They're like, what do you mean? Like, I was like bagel versus bagel, like just like the tournament bracket style. We could start it the first day and run it. And they're like, well, I mean, we could try. And I was like, we can make it happen operationally if you're down. And they're like, yeah, let's figure it out. So the team got figuring out to make sure we could actually simultaneously run two bagels of the day systematically. And then the graphics team and the marketing team got behind the idea of like, how do we build this concept out? And the consumers love it. I mean, our guests come in and they think it's so much fun because they really want their favorite bagel to win. So we paired up our kind of traditional favorite bagels of the day against one another. like you said, bracket style, and they played 16 bagels, played 8 games. Then we've reduced down. We're into the final four. The bagel that I picked, I sort of picked an outlier, thinking it might have a run into the tournament, but it did not. The Cinderella died. I had chosen Old Bay cheddar as my particular winner, although I think deep down inside, the Abbey is going to be the one that comes out on top. It's a pretty popular bagel of the day that I think brings a lot of people joy. So we'll see what happens, but tough contenders. So.
Okay, so since that first location, you've been on one heck of a ride. You've been expanding, following. You've been market to market as you enter, new entries. How many are currently open? How many are coming soon? And what's your development plan look like for the next, year or two?
Yeah, so we have 12 open currently, 8 here in Central Florida. We have a location in Houston, Texas, location just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, Charlotte, North Carolina, and Wake Forest, North Carolina. We'll be opening number 13 next month in Charleston, South Carolina. We're very excited about that. We have 33 stores either in some process of like site selection to construction. So we have pretty clear line of sight that those stores are going to open this year. And then we have, I think, a total of 97 in development, including the ones that are in that 33. So an additional 60 or so stores that are going to be coming online that are under area development agreement or franchise agreement.
Okay. And as far as those stores, Orlando's currently company owned. Outside of that is franchise. Is that the
Correct.
model you're continuing? You looking to expand some company owned markets, or what's your long-term vision?
So yeah, so we don't have a plan to build a company-owned market outside of Orlando. We're going to try to keep our stores here centrally located. We have 2 more that are going to open up in the Orlando area. So one off of State Road 50 and one up in Lake Mary later this year. They're still in the planning phase, but those leases have been signed, agreements have been made. So we're working on that. The rest of the market, so outside of Orlando, we're going to be all, primarily franchisees. So.
Okay. And as far as the hospitality industry, since, mid last year has been facing some headwinds and challenges, we're facing now tariffs, a lot of, the recession word is popping out. Are you guys seeing anything in your existing locations that have been around, or any slowdown in new openings, or have you, been able to prevail and, not have an impact as a result of what's happening in the economy?
Yeah, no, the economy is definitely a question mark for a lot of people, and where it's going to land or what's going to happen over the next 6 months. I think we're recording this today. It's April 2nd, and the big tariff day here to figure out what's happening, what's the United States going to do. And so we've had to make some like adjustments on our supply chain side, especially with soft goods, that we import those. So how do we figure who's the domestic supplier? So we're making adjustments to try to make sure that we're protected if there is any significant cost increase. But what we find is that the production of those goods in one place to ship here and bring in kind of offsets the production costs in domestically. So we feel comfortable there. As far as consumer sentiment goes, right now it's still very strong for Jeff's Bagel Run. I think we have a product that is it's very craveable. Like you get a flavor, you really want to eat it, and then it's easy to get. It's a breakfast. It's not something that is if you I think of crumble cookies, and it's like, I love a crumble cookie. Don't get me wrong, but I can't go and get 4 crumble cookies every day. Like that's not something that it's delicious, it's craveable, but it's maybe not something I'm eating every day. But we have a lot of customers that come in every day. They grab a bagel and a cream cheese and a coffee, or they buy 6 or 12 bagels for their family. And it's a meal versus a snack versus a treat. And so that is something I think that differentiates the impact that we're feeling in the marketplace, because, our same store sales are still strong. We're still growing as we continue to expand and find our way into new markets. More people hear about us, they spread the word, and then suddenly we're busier. And so being in a growth phase, I think, has been really good for business in our existing stores, because the more we talk about growing, the more people find out about us. And even when you think you're saturated, you're not even close. I met someone 3 or 4 days ago at the gym, and they were like, "Who are you? What do you have?" I'm like, I own Jeff's Bagel Run, and they're like, "What is that?" And I was like, oh, it's like a bagel shop. We sell bagels and cream cheese. And they're like, where is it? And I was like, hold on, where do you live? And they're like, I live in Winter Garden. I'm like, how do you not know?
Yeah.
You're like my neighbor. You should know. But you never know. So I think we just keep capturing more and more people to the business, and it's been fun.
Yeah, and as you look at your menu relative to other restaurants, it's pretty simple. To your point, there's bagels or spreads. You've got some coffees and some of the
Yeah.
baked goods. Have you had to worry about the value, or is that one any play in the value side, or the product speaks for itself, and you're at a price point where it's not what the QSRs went to at $15 to go to McDonald's and had to do
Yeah.
something else.
I think so we talk a lot about price. We talk a lot about making sure we're priced to the market. We made some price adjustments earlier this year on the beverage side. So you saw some increases in some coffee prices and some down, but it was so minimal that it's like barely an impact to the consumer. That being said, we think that like $2 for a bagel and $2 for a spread. So you're looking at a bagel for $4.16 with local taxes. That's the same price that you pay if you walk into a Starbucks to get a bagel and a cream cheese. And what you're getting in there is a product that's not nearly as good, high of quality. It's certainly not scratch made. It's been warmed up in some kind of machine that makes a frozen product turn into a lukewarm product. I don't know how that works, but they do that. And then they hand you like a little tiny tub of, like side of cream cheese with a peel top label that, who knows where or how long it's been sitting around. So we think that our price point is priced right for the market. And then the value creation that you're getting from the quality of the product, the scratch made bagel, the cream cheese, etc., really elevates it, makes it worth it.
Yeah. So I love talking to founders because, it's one of your children, you and your wife, Danielle. Certainly
Yep.
you've got an additional child that, you've the best of times, the worst of times.
Yep.
But as you look and you've said you've got almost 100 under development, different phases, one of the challenges as a brand, especially franchise, is maintaining that passion, that brand experience, and consistency as you franchise out there. What are you doing to ensure that, number 100 is going to deliver the same way that the one in your backyard in Ocoee is delivering every day?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing that we're doing is being steadfast in our kind of like our brand principles. Like internally, we talk about it a lot. Danielle and I used to talk about it all the time when we were just running our store, but it's like we're gonna maintain the focus on bake fresh, bring joy, and build community. If we run every decision through those three pillars, then we're sure to come to an outcome that is meeting the expectations of our standards for what we want the brand to look like, regardless of where we stand that store up, right? So that's the first thing that we do. The second thing that we do is we're building the operational procedures daily as new things come up and we learn something, or a new franchisee comes on board who has experience in restaurants and it's like, hey, have you considered this? We're like, oh wow, that's a great insight. How do we layer that in? So taking that feedback from people and making sure that as long as it meets one of those brand pillars and fits into that bucket, we try to execute it. So we have a great standard operations procedures built in place. We deliver on excellence on training the new teams, and selecting and awarding the right franchisees the opportunity to open a Just Bagel Run is a really important step. So the work that we do is simplistic. We're making bagels, we're serving coffee. Like it's not rocket science. It's not difficult to do. It's hard work. It's still a restaurant. It's still 30-pound dough balls on the counter, chopping them up to get them into the shape to make a bagel. Like you're still doing a lot of hard work, but it's not hard to do. And so if you have a passion for serving people, if you have a passion for having a delicious bagel, and on top of it, you meet the requirements of being a franchisee and you want to open businesses and like you're passionate about being an entrepreneur, I think those things that come together really is what makes it special and unique, so that the business can grow in those markets, especially where they may not be known, or because as local community owners, they take that pride in what they do.
Okay, from a marketing standpoint, you're at an
Yeah.
interesting standpoint from the brand. You've got a brand building exercise, like you said, the person at the gym still doesn't know, which, let's
Yep.
not look at any media because you guys are all over the place as you've been growing. You've got
Stop
new
reading.
market entry which is a very different type of, trying to explain how you're not equivalent to whatever the local shop they're used to, or let's call it chain. And then you've got in the Orlando where maybe not as much brand building, but how do you get that traffic coming in? What's your approach to marketing in, separate the Orlando market where you're established as well as those new market entries?
Yeah, for sure. I think the marketing aspect of what we do is really the most important, maybe the guys in development, the guys on the technology team, the sales team, they're going to say it's not the most important. But I think that the brand awareness and building brand awareness around who we are and what we do is really important. So whether we're marketing to franchisees who want to maybe buy into the business and open a Jeff's Bagel Run, that's a different set of marketing. It's different funnels that we're pumping information into to make sure that they're brought into the ecosystem and can learn about it. On the flip side of it, you have new stores opening in markets, to your point, and that is really about grassroots. Like, we take traditional routes to drive people into the stores. Direct mail. Direct mail has been incredibly good for us. You get that big stack of like junk mail, and you're like, what is this? What is this? And suddenly you get a flyer that's this big, and it says, come for 6 free bagels. You're like, oh, I'll come for 6 free bagels. It's like in my community, because we try to keep that radius really tight. It's like 3 miles away. We know who comes and who shops in our stores. And so direct mail has been like incredible. 11 to 23% redemption, which is way high on direct mail. We use social, specifically Facebook and new market entry, because we know that Facebook has a ton of community building components just built right into the way it works with Facebook groups, with the way that people communicate within them. And so we will just blitz a market within a zip code geography and say, this is who we are. We're coming. Come find us. We're grand opening on this day. Come test our team the day before and try our bagels. We're going to give you a bunch of free bagels and cream cheese. So we really want to make sure that people just get a chance to try the product. We believe in it. We know it's really good, and we want you to eat it. So when we're opening a new market, that's how we really take the market share from other businesses, or at least get that a bit of the wallet share to try the new item. Our franchisees on the ground are also really valuable because they live in their community, they work in that community, they know people, their word of mouth is spreading and growing, and they're trying to get that buzz built around it. We also take a really traditional approach to PR. So you mentioned it, like we get a ton of conversation in the news locally. The same thing's happening whether you're in Houston or Charlotte. The morning shows, the local food beat reporter, all those things we're talking about who we are, and we're saying, come eat our bagels, come eat our bagels. We think they're the best, and you're going to really like it.
Okay, you touched upon technology, and when we were together in Myrtle Beach, I happened over here when you were talking to a prospective franchise.
Yeah.
Think a bagel shop, you say it's not rocket science, but you've added some interesting components on the technology side in there for what you sort of described as a simple bagel operation. Can you share some of the insane stuff you guys are doing from a technology standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that when it comes to the difference between why Jeff's Bagel Run will be successful and why it won't be in a market is because of the technology layer that we're building underneath the brand. So in store, we built a ground up POS system, a ground up kitchen display system. It all is controlled and connected through inventory. So it's very sophisticated. We're probably the most sophisticated 12 store bagel chain in the world right now, with the amount of technology that we put in. But on top of that, we layer in a customer mobile app that allows you to pre-order and identify like bagels that you want, coffees, things like that. So the technology is very cool. And the reason that we built it was because the hardest person to replicate in the entire operation is me. Like, how do you replace me as the baker, as the person who, in the Ocoee location is like standing back, like runs out of the corner with a tray, hot bagels, and I'm putting them in the basket. And like, I can see my basket of bagels. I can see what's in the oven. I have a feel for the customer flow and what they're buying. And, how do you replicate that? So we just took 3 or 4 months of data that we would record on a sheet of paper or a whiteboard and send a picture to our dev team. And they uploaded it into a learning model and built a system that AI now uses to help us generate bakes. And those bakes are really valuable because we try to bake on time, not ahead of time. So we want to make sure that like the bagels that are coming out of the basket are being replaced with hot, fresh ones all day long. I think that's a non-traditional way to run a bagel shop. Most people do a one bake and then dump all the bagels in the basket, and that's what you get. And so we don't do that. We want to bake all day because that's what we've always done. And honestly, it was sort of, I mean, I hate to say it was by accident, but like I was literally one person. Danielle was at the counter and I was the baker, and I couldn't bake fast enough. So people would be like, "I'll just wait for the hot ones," and I'd bring hot ones out. And then customers were like, "The hot ones are great. Like this is so much fun. Like you should do this." And so as we grew the business, it was like, how do we get hot bagels into the mouths of people? So the technology allows us to do that.
Yeah, no, and those hot bagels, to your point, is part of why forever I didn't get the spreads because the bagels on their own were so phenomenal that
Like you
didn't need
just
the
eat it
spread.
like, yeah, you just eat it
Yeah,
straight up. No, 100%.
yeah, and whenever we get them, normally if we bring home the dozen, there'll be at least two or three that are eaten instantly in the house because you don't want them to cool down because they're just so phenomenal, fresh out of
100%.
the oven.
The car bagel is a thing. We talk about this a lot in the shops when people will get six and they're like, "Oh, they're so hot. They feel so good." And we're like, "Add a car bagel." They're like, "What?" I'm like, "A car bagel. Like just add number seven. That way when you get home you still have six and nobody's the wiser." And they're like, "Oh." So they always add a car bagel.
Okay, so Jeff, if we could get into a time machine, go 5 years from today, what are you hoping Jeff's Bagel Run looks like in the number of locations?
5 years is a very long time. Um,
Yeah.
because it was 5 years ago that I started this and I was making bagels in my kitchen at home. So a lot can happen in 5 years. I believe that will realistically be, I would love to be in the like 250 to 300 unit range. I think as we build more capacity to get these stores constructed and real estate developed, I think we'll go faster. It took us a year to open 12. This year we're opening 30. So if we could do 30 this year and we could do another, like if we can get to a store a week and do 50, 50, 50, I think that puts us around like 270 and change. So that would be an incredible like achievement, I think, as a business to open that many stores in a 5 year window, especially that many a restaurant to stand up. That many restaurants would be, or bakeries, if I want to be technical, like that would be a pretty incredible undertaking and feat. So
Absolutely. So now the part of the episode, although we've talked a lot of personal because the whole, company's been ingrained with you, get into real personal questions about, you as an individual, Jeff. So the first one is if you could go back and give yourself advice as you started your journey, what would it be?
don't be so hard on yourself. I just think that I was so hypercritical of every mistake that I would make or um, every piece of feedback that I would get from someone. It hurt. Like it hurt right here. And I think I was probably overly critical. I think there's a balance. Like the overly critical self like review process is valuable to growing something. I think it's important. You need that, but it doesn't have to like hurt as much. It doesn't have to like you can take the feedback and make adjustments without taking it personally. And I think I took a lot of stuff personally early on. So I would say that was the one thing I would, for me, make sure I look back at my younger self and said, take it a little easier. It's okay.
Okay. I'm assuming the answer to this one's not going to be opening a bagel shop. When you were in elementary school, what did you want to do when you grew up?
Oh, man, I'm pretty sure I was like a firefighter. I thought being a firefighter would just be so cool. Like the big trucks and like all the gear. I loved it. It was either that or an astronaut. I mean, I grew up in Florida, so um, I had, peak, space shuttle missions. Like I was all about it. I wanted to go to space camp, the whole deal.
Yeah, no, I was always into the space program. Didn't grow up here, came to UF for college. And I just laugh now as my kids. And, it seems like every other night there's a rocket launch out the backyard,
I
between
every
SpaceX.
day.
It's insane. Insane.
Yeah.
So, what's your favorite activity when you're not working?
Man, I spend a lot of time with my family. I just like we work so hard that we pour the rest of our time into just what we do here, with the kids. And I've got four kids, two are in college, and two still in grade school, and we we just spend a lot of time with them. I think that like people talk a lot about like work-life balance, and when you're a founder or a business owner, there really is no balance. There's always work because it's just always there. Like it doesn't ever go away, you know. But then your family's always there too. You're not, they don't go away either. So try to find more of like a what's your balance, and like when I'm pouring 100% into work, then it's 100% work. And flip side of that, Danielle's doing that, then I get to be the primary parent. I'm focused on family and what's happening there, and so it's like 100% one way, 100% the other way. I think that's the only way to be good at both, because if you like 50-50 balance, like you're going to be terrible at both. So one of the two is going to not be successful, and I don't really want either of them to not be successful. So
what's your favorite bagel and spread?
oh man, I had a salt bagel before we got on this chat today. I love a salt bagel. That is my all-time favorite. It's like a breakfast pretzel. I will eat it with chive and onion cream cheese because I like a little bit of savory, but I also will eat it with the sweet cream cheeses. Brown sugar cinnamon is like just a salt bagel with brown sugar cinnamon that's sweet and salty. It's just so good.
Okay, I love the Asiago everything, and I hate to say it when that thing's fresh. I don't put any spread on it. I
I don't
literally
either.
eat it.
I eat that one right out of the oven, burn my fingers, burn my mouth, because it's like it's just so good when it's hot. Like that cheese and everything seasoning is just so good.
Yeah, and then we'll get the dozen, bring them home. I hate to say it, I'm sorry. We'll freeze them because I can't eat them
That
all.
no, that's what you
And,
should do.
and the best is we'll heat them up and have a sausage patty omelet with some pepper jack and to die for.
That
Absolutely
sounds
love
so
it.
good. I think that's like, and what you just said there is like the whole reason why we serve just bagels, because that's what we remembered as kids growing up. It was like you would get a bagel from the bagel shop, and the person at the bagel shop
Hmm.
just served bagels. That was it. They didn't have
Yep.
this like big elaborate deli. If they did, it was like a catering operation that you
Hmm.
would get for like a bar mitzvah, like not,
Yep.
not like a sandwich that you would eat that in the moment there. And so bringing that back and bringing that idea back so that you can go home and enjoy something with your family, that's awesome. That brings
Yeah.
us joy.
Yeah, no, and same thing growing up with my grandparents, go to the little deli in Chicago. And like you said, they'd have the catering, maybe the chicken salad, the tuna salad, but always
Yes,
remember get
yes,
the bagels and would get the Nova Lox and the, tub of cream cheese and, take that home. And that would be the family Saturday or Sunday,
yeah.
breakfast meal. Favorite band or artist?
Oh man, it's so hard. It's like asking me my favorite movie. There's just so many good ones. But most recently, Danielle and I went to a show at the House of Blues locally, and we saw Matt Nathanson. So he's
Mhm.
like a folk rock artist. He's been in a part of our life for a long time, so it was fun to see him live.
Okay, what's your favorite sports team?
I mean, this is so painful because I grew up in South Florida in a family of people from New Jersey. So, I was like a born and bred Giants fan. Like that's what who I was supposed to root for. And the Giants were really good back then. It's like Phil Simms was their quarterback. It was so much fun to watch, but like I couldn't not root for my hometown team. So I was a Miami Dolphins fan. So I grew up a Miami Dolphins and like Atlanta Braves and like New York Yankees fan because the Braves were close by. And that's kind of who I rooted for as a kid. And then I went to school at UCF. And so I quickly understood what it meant to root for a college football team. And, you know, my amazing wife went to the University of Florida, so we are a bit of a house divided, but now my son's there, so we'll see. I don't know. It's fun I think a less team nowadays and more sport. So I love watching college football, really enjoy, you know, watching my kids play sports, which is so much fun. So
Yeah, so I have to push back there. A house divided, UCF in Florida. Yes, a little bit, but as I said, my first job after UF was coming down. I was with the sports radio station at that point, 540 the team, which
yeah,
became 740, and very close friends with Mark Daniels, who is the voice of UCF. So
yeah,
I've always had a place in my heart for UCF, except I think twice now we've played each other, maybe three
yeah.
times. So
I think it's been
and
three times we had a bowl game,
Three
right?
times,
Yeah,
yeah, because and I know you beat us once, but let's be fair.
yeah.
No one,
It's
no one,
fun.
half our team sat out. But at the end of the day, I root for UCF, and it's one if they play head to head. That's the only time I don't root for UCF. So house
That's fair. I
divided.
mean,
Florida State, Georgia. That to me would
that's,
be a house divide. That'd be a house
yeah,
divided. So
fair enough.
if you could have a beer or meal with anyone dead or alive that is not a family member, because everyone would ask, answer a parent, so I had to put that caveat in. Who would it be and why?
So I've answered this question a couple of different ways in, different settings. And, I really think that I would want to have dinner with like a an ex-president, like a Roosevelt, a Truman, a Lincoln, like one of those like key figures in history, because I love history. And so not I wouldn't want to have dinner with them to understand like their leadership style or but like I wanted to know like what's the dirt. I need to know. Like tell me what's going on. Like to talk to Kennedy would be just so cool. Be like, hey, what was it like, to be that age and in the White House? And like I just think that would be so much fun to get the scoop, right? Because we don't know. But they do. And I think it'd just be so incredible to have that conversation. And if it's not even an American president, like to talk to like a foreign president or somebody in the like that's a decision maker in like the thing that everybody's talking about, be just so much fun.
Yeah, I'm with you. And what pops to mind as you answer that is Independence Day with the whole Area 51 thing. And, all those
100%.
different
I need to
things
know.
like, oh, yeah, it exists, and to your point, that would be, cool just to know, okay, what, on all those different things that are never unclassified that we'll never know
100%.
what really
I
happened.
mean, we can turn this into a conspiracy theory podcast really quick. I'll go down that rabbit hole with you.
When next year you're at 150 locations, we'll get back on, and
Deal.
instead of the
Sounds
question,
good.
since we already did it, we'll do a conspiracy.
Perfect. Perfect.
Q&A.
I love it.
What are you most proud of in your professional career?
I'm just proud of the people that have um, grown while I've been working alongside them. I think I've achieved a lot of different things in my corporate career. Obviously, we're growing a great business and I'm proud of what we're doing, but it's so exciting to see the individuals that kind of come along for the ride and listen to the mentorship or take the advice, personally or professionally to grow. And that to me is what I think it's the most rewarding component, because I think that there's you're always doing it to make money, right? Like that's your goal. Like you start a business to make money. Most people do. Shouldn't say everyone, but most people want to start a business to make some money. And then along the way, you like meet these incredible people who believe in you, and then you like reinvest in them, and they help you get your business even better, and then you watch them have success alongside. It's the best.
And what's something most people don't know about you?
Most people would not know that I was a child actor. When I was like 8, 9, 10 years old, I did like local theater. And then all through high school, I did high school theater. I got to UCF and I thought, oh, I'm going to be a part of the theater program. It'd be so fun. And I get there and like all the men are like 6 foot tall, perfectly chiseled, can dance, can sing, very handsome. And I'm like, I'm definitely not it anymore. So I quickly went behind the scenes. But I'd spent a lot of time doing the young, like, high school and, children's theater. It was fun.
Oh, great. And, Jeff, I've really enjoyed talking with you so much today. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this episode, but thank you so much for coming on board, being a guest. And, I wish, you and Danielle nothing but the greatest success. And,
Thank you.
Jeff's Bagels run, hitting, nationwide so people can enjoy the great product you have.
Thank you so much. It's been so much fun to chat and talk about the business and life and all the things. So it's been great.
Thanks. Thank you. And
Thank
thanks
you.
to everyone. Thanks to everyone for joining us. And here's to celebrating the industry we love and serve. Until next time, stay hungry for success.